Okay, well, people are joining the room. Welcome to today's session. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a frog in my throat. My name is Fran Halliwell. I'm a Senior International Officer at the University of Manchester in the UK. I'm also joined today by colleagues from our partners IBEC, and also my Manchester-based colleague, Chris, who's the head of the MBA Marketing and Recruitment team. So what we're going to do today is basically we are going to give you some general information about the University of Manchester, what it's like, the student experience there, and also some information which is really key about our MBA programs that we offer at the university in the Alliance Manchester Business School. And Chris is going to basically let you know everything there is to know about the MBA programs. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will try to answer those, possibly not as we go along because we're going to be speaking, but maybe we can address your questions at the end of the presentation. Hopefully you'll get the information that you're looking for about both the university and the business school and the MBA programs in particular. So let's begin. So as we said, we're going to provide some information about the university, the city of Manchester, the amazing city of Manchester, my favourite city in the world, and also student life, what it's like to be a student at the University of Manchester. My colleague Chris is going to introduce the MBA programs that we offer at the university, and also just run through your questions, as I said. So feel free to put those in the chat as we go along. So first of all, just to introduce the University of Manchester. So the University of Manchester is a Russell Group institution. It has been ranked 27th, the best university in the world in the most recent QS university rankings. I'd say we're about a quarter international, so we have students from about 160 different countries, including Indonesia, studying at our university. And one of the key things that we're so proud of at the university is our employability. Our students are really, really desirable, and they are sought after by companies throughout the world. So we were actually voted University of the Year for graduate employability last year as well, which was an award that we were very pleased to receive. And I think the reason that we have that high employability rate is because we're working really hard in conjunction with companies to make sure that our graduates have the soft skills that employers are really seeking. So it's something that is at the heart of the University of Manchester, and it's something we're very proud of as well. So in case you don't know much about the university, we do date back to 1824. We're famous for quite a few things, including we claim to have built the first ever computer. So basically, a lot of universities in the US and the UK were racing to develop the first ever computer. And Manchester got there first, so we're very proud of that. We actually still have bits of this computer, the first ever one, in our computer science building. It was called the Baby. It was anything but. It was an enormous thing. Obviously, the technology has moved on considerably. We also claim to have split the atom at Manchester. So Ernest Rutherford, who is one of our Nobel laureates, we are associated with 25 of those, as you can see from this slide. He actually did the work that led to the splitting of the atom. And it's actually in the building that I work in. So I'm working in a very historic building. So that's another great claim to fame. We also probably had the first ever lecture in chemical engineering. We've had the first ever professor of psychology, and over the years we've been associated with those 25 Nobel Prize winners. We have 2 on our staff at the moment. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those people in a minute. Okay, so just to reiterate, our rankings, 27th in the world in the QS rankings, and these are our main aims. We are focused on our research, world-class research, which is really central to the university. And the reason that that's important to our students is that our research defines our teaching. So it's really important when you're looking for a university to remember that the research ranking is really key. We also have outstanding learning and student experience at our very core as well. So we focus on that. I actually work for the Directorate for the Student Experience myself. So basically, we are looking at everything that touches students from when they first make contact with the university to their graduation and their employment following their time at Manchester. And also really, really close to our values is social responsibility. So we really want to make sure that our students are giving back to the environment and the community, and there's lots of activities that our students can enjoy and participate in at the university. So what do we look like? Well, we are a very large university. We are the largest single site university in the UK, but we've cleverly broken our structure down into just 3 faculties: humanities, biology, medicine and health, and science and engineering. So that's kind of like what we look like. And within those faculties, we also have the schools, which also includes the Alliance Manchester Business School, where Chris is based. While I've been at Manchester, which has been for a very long time, we've been continually investing in our fantastic campus. Over £1 billion of investment is being spent on our campus. We're currently trying to bring a very, very large area, about I can't remember exactly the size of it, but you'll see it. I'll show you a photograph later on, so you'll see how significant our campus is in the city centre of Manchester. But we're trying to sort of reconcile everything to a single site. That's including the building of a brand new engineering campus due to open next year. We, as Chris will no doubt tell you, we have the most amazing business school building with restaurants and shops. So it's a fantastic facility for students to use. So that's one of the things that we've done as part of our master plan. We've also built the National Graphene Institute. Our art gallery, which you can see in the middle there, is the Whitworth, which is a fabulous building. We actually have our own museum and art gallery on campus. So I'm just going to tell you now a little bit more about the city of Manchester. So if you're not familiar with Manchester, we claim to be the 2nd largest city in the UK after London. We have an ongoing argument with Birmingham about this fact. They say that they're the 2nd city, but that's not the case. It's definitely the fantastic city of Manchester. We have our history based in the Industrial Revolution, but Manchester's really not an industrial city at all. It's a big business city. I'm sure Chris will talk about the aspects of our business area. But we do have a mixture of beautiful Victorian buildings like the ones you can see behind me today, and very, very new cutting edge architecture, which makes the city original and modern and a fantastic place to live and study. It's very international, it's very diverse. We have the biggest Chinatown outside of London, lots of lovely restaurants and supermarkets around there. We have the Curry Mile, so we have a whole mile of halal restaurants basically right next to the university. So it's a very Muslim-friendly city as well. And, you know, there's lots of exciting restaurants. There's always something happening in Manchester, from food festivals to sporting events. So, and it makes it a very, very popular student city. I think there's like 1 in 5 people in Manchester is a student. So it's a big population that you would be joining. I'll probably talk a little bit about sport, because you may have heard of a couple of football teams that we have in Manchester, Manchester City and that other one that seems to be quite popular in Indonesia. But you know, it's a fantastic opportunity to join a sporting fan community. Both football grounds are very close to the university, and we also invested a lot of money in the city's sports facilities as well as the university sports facilities back in the year 2000, when Manchester was the host of the Commonwealth Games. I'll talk a bit more about that later on. So I mentioned that we are a big, big part of the city of Manchester. So literally from our campus, it's about a 15-20 minute walk to the city centre of Manchester. It could not be more convenient for students. All around our campus, we have supermarkets and restaurants and takeaways. You can actually just get everything that you need around the university campus. So you can see that we do have a pretty big footprint, and it's an impressive campus to visit. But we're really, really part of the city of Manchester. We're a civic university, which is really, really key to our sort of partnership with the city. As I mentioned, Manchester is very lively, it's vibrant, it's affordable, you can get fantastic student discounts by using your totem card, and our students certainly take advantage of everything that's on offer. There's about 2.7, 2.8 million people in Greater Manchester, which is our wider area. As I mentioned, a massive, massive student population, so you'll be joining a very welcoming community. Art galleries, theatres, amazing shopping, and cafe culture, where you can sit out in a cafe and have a nice coffee and meet with your friends as well. And in addition to the Curry Mile and Chinatown that I've mentioned, we also have a kind of really sort of like bohemian area of the city called the Northern Quarter. And if you really like big shopping malls, we have one in the city centre, the Arndale, but we also have access to the Trafford Centre, which is an amazing shopping centre where you can also go skiing. They have indoor skiing and they have skydiving. So our students do tend to visit the Trafford Centre and really enjoy the facilities there. Is Manchester safe? Well, we have a very safe campus. We have security guards and CCTV. So you can have a look around. We are an open campus, but it feels very safe. You have to have a staff or student card to get into any of our buildings, and the security teams are there to protect our students. Accessing healthcare, well, we have a national health service in the UK, so students are not necessarily required to have private health insurance. You can access the national health service. You have to pay a surcharge when you apply for your student visa. Where do I eat at lunchtime? Well, I'm sure Chris will confirm that there's a lot of choice on campus. There's so many cafes and restaurants, some really nice ones actually, particularly in the business school building, where you can just grab, your lunch. You don't need to go back home because it's all just there for you. We even have markets on one day of the week where like market traders, so there's like the street food that you might be used to at home. It's not quite the same, but we do have a company called Nasi Lemak who come in and give like really nice sort of Southeast Asian food. How do you travel to class? Well, you can go on the bike like the guy in the photograph, or you can just walk. We also have a free bus, the 147 bus, where you can just flash your student card and that will take you around the campus. And in terms of accommodation, it's within the campus. So the furthest afield our accommodation is in Fallowfield, which is about a 25-minute walk from the main teaching areas. So as I mentioned, it's just really, really convenient. This is just a picture of our accommodation campuses. So we have 3. So we have the city centre one, and then we have Victoria Park, which is probably about 15 minutes away. And then we have Fallowfield, which is a mainly undergraduate area, but everything that students need is in those areas. So a lot of students choose to live in the city campus because it's so convenient. They can literally just roll out of bed and into their lectures. Other students prefer it to be a little bit more further afield. In Victoria Park is very green, suburban area. And then Fallowfield is our student village where kind of like it's all geared up. There's a big student community there. So the Manchester experience, what is it like? I think we have a very distinctive offering. I think it's a very distinct higher education and learning experience in a community of outstanding students and staff. And as I mentioned, so multicultural. And I talked about earlier about how we are trying to create graduates who are sought after by employers. And that's because of the qualities that are given within the courses and their leadership and their sort of like commitment to being part of the community. And it's just so lovely to walk around our campus and just hear languages from all over the world. And, feeling part of that Manchester experience is really special. So I mentioned that we also have our own art gallery and museum. So that's another thing you can do in your lunchtime. They do often change the exhibits in the art gallery and the museum. So there's always something new to see. And we're also investing heavily in our museum at the moment and developing new galleries. You can see a picture at the bottom there. We have our own T-Rex skeleton in the museum. So if you're a big dinosaur fan, you'd be able to go and see Stan, our T-Rex. But the picture at the top there, we also have our own radio telescope, which is not on the campus because that would be a bit weird. It's in a big field in Cheshire outside of Manchester, but it's a fantastic place that you can go and visit, and we also have like a discovery centre that you can visit. Also, we have outstanding music and theatre. We actually have a number of theatres on campus, a contact theatre. We have our own concert hall. So, you know, there's lots of sort of companies coming through the university campus. We also have a 2,600 capacity music venue, the Academy, and smaller venues as well. So there's lots and lots of things to get involved with. Those of you who've not studied in the UK before might not be, sorry, I'm just, my screen's gone. Just bear with me. You might not be familiar with the Student Union, but the Student Union is a really exciting place. It's an organisation where students are elected basically to represent the university on committees, but they also have their own radio station, they have their own TV channel and their newspapers. So if you're interested in journalism, it's a fantastic place to get involved. We also have work and volunteering opportunities, 300 plus societies ranging from everything from skydiving. They even have a Quidditch society. I don't really know how that works in Manchester, but if you're a Harry Potter fan, join the Quidditch society. If you don't like any of the societies that we offer, you can form your own. And one thing I should mention is also we have a really excellent Indonesian student society, PPI, Greater Manchester. It's an inclusive society for all of the universities in our area. They organise everything from Hari Raya events to food events. So if you like to makan, you can do that in Manchester and have some of the food from home, which is always really nice. Those are my favourite events that we have at the Students' Union, because I love the food in Indonesia. Gado every day for me, please. So if you also like it, you know, we have societies related to courses. We have societies that can teach you skills that you never knew you wanted to obtain. So it's a really vibrant, exciting arrangement to get involved with the Students' Union. So I mentioned those couple of little football teams that we have in Manchester. So, but it's not just about Manchester City, and I'm going to say it, Manchester United. Anyway, I said it. So basically we have lots and lots of different sporting societies. There's 42 different athletics clubs that you can join. We have fabulous sporting facilities on our campus. We have 3 sports centres, 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. We have indoor and outdoor facilities, given the unpredictability of the Manchester weather, and that's why it's not Manchester, it's the UK. We also have facilities in our halls of residence, and of course you can access the Etihad Stadium, the Old Trafford, which is where that other football team are based, the National Cycling Centre, the National Squash Centre on campus. So this picture is a picture of the Purple Waves. So students and staff from the university will get sponsored and just do this like massive sporting event through the city of Manchester. Now, I'm just going to touch on this because I think Chris is going to talk a bit more about this in terms of the MBA programme. But as I mentioned, employability is really key to the university, and we're consistently one of the most targeted universities in the High Flyers survey, which is a survey done every year with 100 employers. We actually came second this year, which I'm so disappointed. We've generally been first every single year, but we came second this year, but we'll soon be back on top. But 94% of our graduates go straight into employment or further study within a few months of graduating from the university. And the other thing that I'd like to talk about is the graduate route. So this is basically a post-study work visa. So at the moment, from this summer, we are going to be allowing students to stay on in the UK to either look for work or to work. So it's a really exciting time to think about studying in the UK, and that's happening from this summer onwards. So this is just a sample of some of the companies that our students go on to work for. A couple of Manchester connections in there. The BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, has its second headquarters after London, based in Manchester. So you very often see our academic staff on the news, being experts in their field. Rolls-Royce, you may have heard of, cars, aeroplane engines. Well, Mr. Rolls met Mr. Royce at the Midland Hotel in Manchester. So that was a very fortunate meeting. But these are, you can see the size of the companies, PwC, KPMG, you'll have heard of AstraZeneca, obviously in the news big time at the moment, Apple. So just a quick piece of information. So as part of a student visa, students are permitted to work for up to a maximum of 20 hours per week through the student visa programme. And that's also full-time in the holidays. Chris will probably talk about the MBA students, but because the MBA programme has lots of other opportunities within the structure. But internships and work experience is also available through our very, very excellent careers centre at the university. And we also provide, lots of things like workshops, advice with your CV and resume, and the business school has a particularly strong offering in this area as well. But just in terms of general support services at the university, we have a dedicated student immigration team to help with any visa issues, confidential counselling, financial advice, support for students who might need additional needs. We have our Res Life team in the halls of residence. We have academic advisors, which are also in the schools, but also independent. So you have a choice there, depending on where you want to go. I mentioned the student union. We also have pre-sessional English and sort of like within sort of in-sessional English support as well. So there's ongoing support there. This is available online. So we are running our pre-sessional courses in a hybrid way at the moment. So if you want any more information about that, I can fill you in later. So I just wanted to so the deadline there should be 2021 rather than 2020, but we offer a very, very unique accommodation guarantee at Manchester. So most universities allow students just to stay in the halls for like 1 year, but even if you're an undergraduate or you're doing the longer MBA programs, you can stay in the halls. The deadline for accommodation is always the 31st of August within that year. We can do this because we have over 8,000 rooms at the university, a mixture of self-catering accommodation like in the picture here. This is one of our postgraduate halls, George Kenyon, where you have a kitchen and you can cook food with friends, or you can just order from we have the equivalent of Grab Eat in Manchester Deliveroo, and they'll deliver it. But we also have catered halls where you're provided with your breakfast and your evening meals, so you have a choice. We have ensuite rooms where you have your own bathroom, and we have sort of rooms where you would share a bathroom with other men or women, not mixed, obviously. And then we also have separate halls for our undergraduate and postgraduate students. So there's a lot of options there. We have 22 halls of residence at the university. So this is just like an outline of the kind of sort of room plans. So I've mentioned we have the ensuite facilities. They tend to be the most popular, and you need to apply early. So as soon as you get an offer, you can apply for the halls of residence. We have more standard facilities as well, as you can see there. So lots and lots of choice. So if you're interested in looking at accommodation, we have the accommodation website, and you can get a good feel for what the rooms are like. I've already mentioned that we have the accommodation campuses. So we have right in the middle of the campus, we have the Victoria Park, a little bit more suburban, and then Fallowfield, which is a little bit further out, but is really geared up for the students. So basically, you submit your application for accommodation as soon as you receive your offer. Then you get a contract in the summer usually, and then you have to just pay the fee then, which is a reservation fee. We also have private accommodation in the city of Manchester, and we have a bureau called Manchester Student Homes that can help you to find accommodation. They work really closely with the landlord community in Manchester, and so the halls have been checked out. So it's another really good service that we offer. Okay, so basically, I'm going to stop talking and hand you over to my colleague, Chris. As I said, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box. And while Chris is talking, I'm sure it'll generate lots of interest and questions. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and hand you over to Chris Healey, Head of MBA Marketing and Recruitment.
Thank you very much, Fran, and good evening, everyone. So yes, as Fran said, my name is Chris Healey. So a quick introduction to myself. I've worked on the MBA programme and at Alliance Manchester Business School for about 15 years now. So my responsibility is for the recruitment and marketing of our suite of MBA programs. So that consists of our part-time Manchester Global MBA, which is one of the biggest professional MBA programs in the world, where we have campuses in Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Shanghai, and Brazil. We also have partnership MBA programs, so that they would be with the likes of the Healey School of Business in the US, with FGV in Brazil, with Tongji University in Shanghai. And finally, my area of responsibility is for our full-time MBA program, which is classed as the flagship program at Alliance Manchester Business School. Before I get started on my presentation, I'll just pick on, Fran gave an excellent overview of the university there, so I'll just touch on a couple of other things that could also be relevant from the business school. So Alliance Manchester Business School was also one of the first 2 business schools to open in the UK back in 1965, and that came about because the UK government at the time felt we had world-class universities in the UK, but we were being left behind somewhat from with the growth of graduate schools in the US. So they approached University of London and the University of Manchester to set up 2 standalone business schools, and that then led to the inception of London Business School and Alliance Manchester Business School. In terms, Fran also mentioned some of our excellent university rankings, which we can also add to on the MBA. You may have seen in Financial Times this year, just a few weeks ago, they ranked our MBA as one of the top 30 MBAs in the world, one of the top 5 MBAs in the UK. We're also a business school that only 1% of business schools across the world have what is classed as triple accreditation. So, similarly to the university, there's great heritage, great reputation at the business school. So I'm going to just move over to my slides quickly here. Let's see. So I'll put share screen. See if that works. Can everyone see the screen there? Is that looking okay, Fran? Yeah, thumbs up from Fran. Perfect. So I think, my objective today is to offer you general advice to help you in your MBA research and to give you perhaps some tips that will help you along the way. Of course, I will be speaking about the Manchester MBA, but I also want to keep things to a general level to an extent. One of the first things that I think is important for people who are researching MBA programs is, they often think, right, I need to start in terms of looking at which business school I want to study at. Now, I'm actually a believer that picking a world-class business school is very easy. And the reason I say picking a world-class business school is very easy is because there's a number of world-class schools around the world. Just in the UK, I think, this is without having a debate or anything, there's a minimum of 5 world-class business schools in the UK, of which Manchester would be one of them. But I think if you were then to debate that a bit longer, you could easily get that number to 10 world-class business schools in the UK. And that's before we start talking about the schools in Europe, the schools in Asia, the schools in North America, etc. So I don't believe that looking at the school is the first thing, is the hardest part. I think so of course, if everyone can keep their microphones on mute, that would be helpful. Thank you. So where was I there? Yes. So my tip for you is to think about picking the right MBA program structure. And how you should, I think, go about that is think about what an MBA is in general. So what an MBA is, it's a general management qualification. And what we do here at Manchester, so you can see we've got some core courses there. If you look at the bottom of the screen there, you've got leading and managing in a global environment, business and accounting. So these are what we would class as your core business disciplines: your marketing, your operations, your economics, your accounting, your finance, your strategy. They are the fundamentals of business, but also they're the cornerstone of all MBA programs. Notice there that I used the word all MBA programs, I'm not speaking about Manchester specifically. Then all MBA programs across the world will allow you to specialize, if you will. And there's many different ways how that happens. Our approach is to say, okay, we want to have what we class as traditional subjects. By traditional subjects, I mean things such as negotiation skills, supply chain management, corporate finance. These are subjects that were on our curriculum 30 years ago. They're on there now, and they will be there in another 30 years. Sorry, I've just seen something about me being spotlighted there. Now I understand what's just happened, so that's great. So it's important to have what we class as those traditional subjects. On the other hand, we have what I would class as current and topical subjects. So they would be things such as managing disruptive technologies, the digital economy, big data analytics we've had for a few years, sustainable business, extremely important at the moment. But if we take something like, managing disruptive technologies as an example, yes, it's been very popular the past few years on our curriculum. And it will continue to be popular, I think, for the next 2-3 or so years. But as that technology becomes less and less disruptive and more normalized, is there a need for such a course? But the point, and the answer to that is probably not. And that would then be replaced with another course that's more current and topical. So the point I'm trying to make there is, whenever someone studies at Alliance Manchester Business School and the Manchester MBA, they can be sure that on the one hand, there's those traditional subjects that are very important, but on the other hand, that they will also have access to what's current and topical. Granted, I've mentioned there how we do it at Alliance Manchester Business School, but I think that the majority of world-class business schools would be able to say very, very similar things to what I've said there. I would, if I, again, a piece of advice for you, what I've said so far is the minimum expectation I would have when I would be researching an MBA program. I don't actually believe I've said anything groundbreaking about the Manchester MBA. This is what MBA students should expect. But then you've got to think, okay, so how do we go about picking the right MBA program structure if a lot of the content is similar, if they've got traditional subjects, topical subjects, etc. So what I advise there is to find out how an MBA program is unique. Of course, all business schools will say their MBA is unique. I'm going to now allude to why our MBA is unique, but the key thing from your perspective is to really challenge that, and to think, when they say their MBA is unique, does it stand up to scrutiny? So for example, saying, I wouldn't expect a colleague from, Oxford Business School to say, come to us at Oxford because we will teach marketing better than Manchester. Equally, we wouldn't be saying something like that at Manchester. When you're looking at two top MBA business schools that have got two top MBA programs, you should know from day one that the quality of the teaching is going to be on a comparable level. So the trick is, or the key is, to really find out what is unique. So for us, it's focused on what we call our Manchester method. The Manchester method is a practice-based approach to teaching and learning, meaning we want our students to apply what they learn in the classroom in real life settings. This happens very easily on a professional, part-time, executive online MBA because you're working full-time. As a general rule on full-time MBA programs, this sort of thinking is extremely difficult to apply whilst you're on a program because you're studying and not working. But what we've done at Manchester is we've integrated 3 live business consultancy projects into the program. So we begin with what we call our not-for-profit consultancy project. That is with the likes of the National Football Museum, the National Trust, the Air Ambulance Group, and this is a great service, I think, that we offer these types of organisations, and a great introduction to our students into the business school, also into the city, because the majority of these clients are based in Manchester or the Northwest region. So it's a great way for you to, get to know more about the city and the wider area. But from what I would say, a corporate social responsibility point of view, we really are offering a great service here, because these types of companies would never be able to go to a consultancy or to have, 4, 5, 6 what we class as MBA level students working on a piece of work for them. So we offer that service completely free of charge for these organisations. Any costs that you, the students, have to take, we will take those costs upon ourselves. You then go to a commercial business consultancy project. Now, the commercial business consultancy is often with startups or SMEs, and on some occasions also multinational organizations. Now, these companies are actually paying for this service. So in terms of the not-for-profit consultancy, the only thing the client is giving up is their time. Their time is very precious for us and for you as students. But when we come to our next 2 projects, there are fees involved for the organizations. And then you finally move to our international business consultancy. This is what I would class as the highlight of the program. Generally speaking, it is with multinational organizations. One of the reasons being they need to pay a fee of between £15,000 to £20,000 usually to secure a group of MBA students. And there's a prerequisite from our side that states you have to that there has to be an international element to the program. So if I look at the group who worked with, say, Cisco, they were doing work in San Francisco and Tokyo. We did work with one of the biggest retail organizations in the Middle East. They actually moved 2 groups of MBA students to Dubai for 2 months. And the other thing to, I think, for you to understand here is, you might be thinking, okay, well, Chris is showing his companies like, let me see on this list here, we've got GSK, TNT, Audi. So he's showing us these list of companies because Manchester Business School's got such a great relationship with them. That's not necessarily the reason. These are not what I would class as, I'll use this term, they're not Mickey Mouse projects. It's a real business that has a real impact. So if I look at, say, MasterCard, one of our recent clients, they were looking at innovative credit card technologies in Western Europe. So they were looking at the UK, German, Italian, Polish, and Austrian markets. That meant they had to be in those 5 countries. But the point I'm trying to make here is the director who was sponsoring that project for MasterCard, I don't know what her yearly budget is or was, but what I do know is she was spending a percentage of it with Manchester Business School and our MBA students. So her expectations, alongside all of our other clients' expectations, is extremely high. The other element where you can get practical experience on the Manchester MBA is through our summer internships. So what that means is when you would graduate on the Manchester MBA programme, you would graduate with 4 new companies on your CV. That could mean you get exposure to new and different industries that you don't already have on your CV. It could allow you exposure to an industry that you're interested in maybe working in the future. And before I get to the international elements. So one way I would look at this is, I mentioned that find out what's unique about an MBA program. I genuinely think they have been able to articulate why the Manchester MBA is unique, because with those 3 consultancy projects, we offer you 900 hours of client-facing time. So what we know is no other business school in the world is able to offer that amount of client exposure to its students. But you could sit there and go, well, yes, so what? Which is perfectly reasonable to do. What I would advise people to do is think about it like this. If you want a fully classroom theoretical based MBA program, then as much as we might want you on our Manchester MBA, that's not what our program is. And this is not to take anything away from a fully classroom theoretical based MBA program. That's not what I'm trying to do, because some of the best MBAs in the world are delivered using that model. But what we do at Manchester is we're offering something different, more of a practical type of program. Yes, you're going to be in the classroom, but we'll also take you outside of the classroom. So you have to think to yourselves, do you think you would like or prefer or excel in a more of a practical way in terms of studying an MBA? If the answer to that is yes, then I would often think, well, the Manchester MBA is one to be considered. If you don't think that, then that's fine. The good thing is the Manchester MBA in that situation is quite easy to then push to one side, because you would not need to think about, yeah, the Manchester MBA could be right for me. So the theoretical and the practical side is something I think is worth you considering as you're researching MBA programs. Some of the other things to consider. I mentioned here we have our global campuses all over the world. International exposure is something that's very attractive to people when they embark on an MBA. They want an MBA program that offers international exposure, and all MBA programs, especially all top MBA programs, offer that. Absolutely, they do. How they do it happen in a variety of different ways. At Manchester, yes, you've got that international business consultancy, so you're going to get that as an absolute minimum. Then, in addition to that, you have the option to do study tours. Now, you could be doing study tours in Dubai or Shanghai. You can do an international exchange with another business school. That's something that's quite traditional. I would also say more of an expectation that I would expect to see from world-class business schools. I don't necessarily think it's unique. But what is unique that we do in Manchester is we allow you to take some of your electives with our executive MBA students in Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Shanghai, Sao Paulo. That is, I think, a great opportunity for you to be in a classroom with people who are very experienced individuals, people who are already in senior roles in their organizations. So it's a great way to tap into what I would regard as a very valuable network. In terms of our student body on the MBA program, about 89% of our students are from outside the UK. In terms of nationalities on the program, we usually have students from between 30 to 35 countries on the Manchester MBA. That our class size is between 100 and 110 students. That is very much by our choice. We could very easily secure a class of 210 students. The reason we don't do that is because our program is not that classroom-based program. If that's how the program was structured, then yeah, absolutely, we could increase the class size. But what we would struggle to do is to double the amount of clients that we have on the Manchester MBA, and that is integral to the student experience and to the learning outcomes. So we need to we're confident when 100, 110 students come onto the Manchester MBA that they will all get an experience of the highest level. Would that be true if we doubled the intake? Probably not. We've touched on some of the electives, so I won't go on too much on that. So I'll try to get wrapped up in the next 10 minutes so we can leave things open for questions and answers. Let's see here. Yes. So Fran also gave an overview of some of our clients at the University of Manchester. On MBA programs, you have clients who will work specifically with universities, but they will also work specifically with different MBA departments, because they will have, think of it as 3 ways to get into, let's say, I'm going to use Amazon as an example because it's the first one I can see on my screen. There's 3 ways of getting into Amazon. One is through a graduate program, which our colleagues in the university will we'll work with a lot of our undergrads and master's students. Secondly, there's the what's it called, the post-experienced route, where you would be applying alongside other individuals from parts of the UK, parts of the world. It won't say that you need an MBA, it won't say that you need a master's. And then thirdly, it's the MBA specific route, where these companies are coming on campus specifically to speak to MBA students. When I started in the industry, consulting and financial services were always the top two industries that students would go into post MBA. That's changed now with the emergence of tech. Our biggest MBA client at the moment is Amazon. I was having a meeting with the head of our careers team last Friday. He said on the Thursday, Amazon had offered 10 internships to people in the current MBA class. Last year, we had 6 people go on an internship with Amazon, and we expect that number of 10 to grow this week as well. So it's interesting the role tech companies have played in the MBA journey now. What we also pride ourselves in Manchester, and I think this is interesting from a post-MBA point of view, is we've never wanted to be known as a specialist business school. We've never wanted to be known as, come to Manchester if your only area of interest is consulting, or your only area of interest is financial services. There absolutely are schools who will position themselves like that as experts in a specific industry. We look at it very differently. We are trying to develop future leaders that can work and adapt across all job functions and across all industries. That is our belief, what an MBA should do, what an MBA is. So for us, it's very important that, we don't only just work with consulting, tech, financial services organizations. We want to work with your pharma, healthcare, with your consumer products, with your manufacturers. We're now seeing more and more people going into startups or setting up their own startups. And we like that about our MBA program. These are just some general statistics. I think we're in the Financial Times this year. Most people are doing an MBA to progress their careers, whether that be from to be more highly remunerated, whether that's to be in a more senior role. But then again, if you're going into a more senior role, chances are you will get that remuneration that will follow. But again, I think all business schools can put these sorts of statistics up. One statistic though that we are extremely proud of is, I've mentioned our MBA careers team. The Financial Times ranked that team as one of the top 20 best careers teams in the world for MBA programs in 2021. That careers team work from you from day one. Their motivation is to think about what's going to happen to you after you exit the MBA program. Are you going to find that dream role? Whether it's back home, whether it's in the UK, as Fran said, we have the two-year student working visa now after people graduate. It'll be interesting what impact that has on the Manchester MBA, because you look at that job location post MBA on this slide. That 44% usually goes between 44 to 54% year on year. It fluctuates in comparison with a number of schools in the UK. that number can, often be below 25%. Whereas at Manchester, what we look for is almost 3 types of results at the end. On one hand, we want about 50% of our students to stay in the UK after they graduate. Then about 25% of students will go back to their respective countries after they graduate. And then the other 25% will not want to go back to their respective countries and will not want to stay in the UK. They will want to take advantage of global opportunities in other parts of the world. Looking at the industry choices, which I've touched on already, but one note I'll make. You see the top 3 there, consulting 23% and financial services 21%. Our ideal scenario, or our perfect scenario, is whatever's number 1 is no more than 20%, because that feeds into our ethos of we want as much variety of industries post MBA, which is the same mentality we have at our admissions committee when we want a very diverse range of applicants onto the programme. We want people from different sectors. So I'll just touch on to the admissions stuff now quickly before we go into the Q&A. There are a number of scholarships available to students, also available to students in Indonesia. These will be focused on the left-hand side here, the Alliance Manchester Business School scholarships, which range from 15 to 50% of the fees. The scholarships are, of course, extremely competitive. Just over 1/3 of the class receive some sort of scholarship, but they are attainable. It's not like we've only got 2 or 3 scholarships. There are a number of scholarships on offer. In terms of the admissions requirements, I think a common question that's asked on MBA recruitment or MBA admissions is, what GMAT do you need? And for us, and I've always said this throughout the years, the number one thing that's most important when looking at an MBA applicant for the Manchester MBA is your professional experience. The average age of students on the programme is 29. The minimum years of professional experience needed to apply for the programme is 3 years. We do have a number of people who are in their early to mid 20s on the MBA. But without a doubt, your professional experience is number 1. And the reason for that, going back to what I've mentioned a couple of times so far, it's because this is not purely a classroom-based MBA programme. We are taking you outside. So if you're working for a client such as BMW, we need to be sure, or we need to be comfortable that we think that you've got the right experience, that you're able to deal with people in senior positions in those types of organizations. And then people often ask about the GMAT. So the GMAT has never been number 1 for us on the Manchester MBA. And I think this was really put to test last year, around this time last year, when the pandemic really hit. For the first time in our history, we said people could apply for the programme without a GMAT. And we've not fully committed to maintaining that for 2021. But what I would say is there absolutely is an opportunity where you could be waived the GMAT test, and we would allow you to take our own internal test. In order for that to happen, we probably would need to have an individual conversation. I'm happy to, share my details with you after this event. If you'd want to have a Zoom call one-on-one next week or throughout March, happy to offer that assistance. And there's a good chance that we could waive the GMAT for you. The English language qualification is still, English language test is still needed. That wouldn't be waived, and the application process is a fairly straightforward straightforward process online. There are no application fees on the Manchester MBA programme. Fees for the programme are £45,000. In terms of programme length, there's three options. You've got the 12-month, the 15-month option, or the 18-month option. There's no difference in fees whether someone picks 18 months, whether someone picks 12 months. To give you a split into the programme duration, 60% take the 18-month programme, 30% take the 15-month programme, and 10% take the 12-month programme. There are student loans available, as well as some of the scholarships that I've highlighted. I think we might be getting to the last slide. Actually, in terms of something else I think that could be of interest to you, if you look to the top right-hand side of this slide, Wednesday, 24th of March, we've got an online information session where I'll be hosting a panel with some of our alumni. I think that's a great opportunity for you to get some perspective from our past students who have come on to the programme and thoroughly enjoyed it. Next application deadline we have is the 15th of March. The final application deadline is the 24th of May. So they're all the slides, but Fran and myself will happily answer any questions that you may have.
There's been a couple of questions about finance, Chris, and maybe about loans for international students. My understanding is that's not really an option for the MBA. Is that correct?
So I've stopped sharing my screen there. So there are loans available. So there's a company called Lendwise, which work with international students specifically on MBA programs. About just under 25% of our students take loans to help fund the MBA. As I've also said, there are a number of scholarships. In Indonesia, we've got a great heritage, great reputation of recruiting MBA students from Indonesia. It's an important country for us. I think actually last year we didn't do so well in Indonesia in comparison to previous years. Now, don't necessarily take that as a negative. Use it to your advantage. That means we want to continue. That means we want to grow the Indonesian market on the MBA program. That could help you when it comes to scholarships, providing you have that right experience, the right academic credentials. So there are a number of ways, I think, in terms of financing an MBA program.
Thanks for that, Chris. Mr. Hendra, did you see any general questions that might be of interest to the audience? Students are asking, are our programs still open for 2021? So I would just explain, a lot of our programs, including the MBA, offer staged admissions process, which means that we have different rounds that you can apply through to. So Chris, what would the deadline be, the latest deadline for an international applicant for the MBA? What would that be?
Yeah, so the latest for that is the end of May. The next deadline we've got is the 15th of March. If for those of you who are maybe later down the application stage, I think the 15th of March is still achievable. But yeah, you've got until the end of May to apply for the MBA program.
Yeah, and that's true of quite a lot of courses at the university. So I would just say that if it's not the MBA that you're looking for today, then you would need to check our website just to make sure that there are still deadlines. So basically, your stage deadline means that a lot of our courses used to get very full. very quickly, very popular university, and it just means that students have a bit more time because they can apply a little bit later on in the year. So, you know, if, for example, if you're in a final year and you don't know your final grades, yeah, we'll have a later stage that you can apply for, and that's the reason that we have the staged admissions. But if you're not sure, do check the course web pages, and it will tell you whether or not that course is still open. Just trying to see if there's any more.
Fran, can I pass on one question to Chris?
Please.
Right, Chris. On behalf of my student, he was very concerned with the interview for MBA applications. Would you be able to elaborate about this interview thing?
Absolutely, yes. Because our program is relatively small, especially when you compare it to, you know, some of the university programs, some of the other business school programs, we do choose to interview all of the students we want to consider for the program. It is important, but we look at it as, you know, actually when I'm one of the people who I'll say interview. And the reason I'm saying interview is my approach is, you know, I don't consider myself a formal person, so I look at it very much as a conversation between two individuals. You know, there's almost, it's a simultaneous interview, if you will. Yes, the business school wants to find out whether that individual is the right fit for their respective MBA program. But equally, I think the individual or the candidate needs to think, is that business school the right fit for me? So I look at it very much as a two-way conversation. We like to get to know our students. We integrated, actually, I should have mentioned this, Hendra, so apologies to the audience, a video assessment to the application stage. Where you might answer 3 questions, and you have like you've got 5 minutes, I think, to answer them. So it could be, you know, tell us about a recent crisis at work and how you handled it. Something generic like that. And if you're then asked for an interview, you've already come through a number of different stages. That means the admissions committee have already looked at your application. They like your application. They've already looked at your video assessment. They think, we like the way this person sounds. We like what they've got to say in terms of their experience or their aspirations. So when you get to interview stage, you should go in there confident, knowing that you've already come a long way. A number of people don't get to interview stage. So, you know, Hendra, you mentioned there about one specific individual. I think he or she should be extremely confident and proud to where they've already got to.
Right. Yes, they were very confident at the first stage, but until the interview invitation come, they lost the confidence.
but I'm saying don't lose the confidence, because if you're invited for an interview, it means we already think a great deal of you as an individual and as a potential student on the Manchester MBA. And also the other thing, although I'm only one of the people who interview, all my other colleagues are lovely, and you know, it's something you should look forward to. It's a conversation everyone should look forward to having.
Sure. Thank you so much, Chris. Now the next one. Had the experience of attending one of your classes. It was in Singapore some years ago. I was involved in an MBA class of Manchester at the office in Singapore. It was, to my opinion, whatever subject that was delivered that day, it was very practical. So this is something that most students actually never realize until they are into the class of an MBA. Would you say some things about the practicality of the programs? I mean, it's applicable in a way.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we don't want to just use theory on the Manchester MBA. We know from speaking to our clients, and by clients I mean recruiters, what they look for people when they hire them from MBA programs, and they want people who can actually have a tangible impact as soon as they come in to their organizations. And we believe the way we teach the Manchester MBA through our Manchester method, through giving students that practical experience, not just in the classroom but outside of the classroom, that it bodes well for their post MBA career.
Right. All right. That was very interesting. Now let me ask everyone if they have any questions for the MBA program. Mungkin ada yang mau bertanya langsung ke Chris atau ke Fran, silahkan.
Okay, I see a question on the chat here which I can answer, which is about consulting firms the business school affiliates with. On the project side, you know, we recently did some work with KPMG, but I think on the consulting side, what you'll find is that tends to happen post MBA. So not necessarily the projects of and yes, we work with the big four. You know, we do some work with then your McKinsey. So our former class president, when he did his internship at McKinsey and then accepted a role to go and work for McKinsey. We're also working more and more with boutique firms. So whether that be in the UK or overseas, it's an important part of our recruitment strategy to develop those relationships with especially boutique firms in Manchester and the Northwest, because we've got a competitive advantage over business schools in other parts of the UK who will not have those relationships. Yes, when it comes to your EYs, your KPMGs, etc., everyone is competing to have their students in those organizations, as we do. It's a very important aspect for our recruitment strategy, but we also add to that by looking at some of those boutique firms.
That was a very good question, actually. Thank you so much, Chris, for explaining. Is there any other questions? Anyone would like to ask anything about the MBA, GMAT? Perhaps could you answer the second question?
Whilst other people might type, I realise I didn't necessarily touch on the second part of that question, which was about programs at the business school where most graduates work specifically in consulting. I'm certainly not an expert in terms of our wider programs, but what I will say in relation to the MBA is one of the reasons why you still see consulting. You know, I think it was first 23% in the table I showed earlier. And one of the reasons why it is so high on the MBA program is because of those projects, because those people who are interviewing then in these consulting firms will see the credentials of these individuals, what they did before the MBA, but also what they did on the MBA. So that could be that. Well, that is another reason why we do have a number of MBA students going into the consulting sector. But just to make a point there, you know, yes, that might be number one, but I want to re-emphasize it's still a relatively low number, and I think it goes to show that we are purposely not trying to specialise in one or two specific industries, because that's not what Alliance Manchester Business School is about.
Right.
And then I suppose, Hendra, I'll mention it to you, as I mentioned to the audience here. If any of them wants to have a more of a detailed individual conversation where I looked at their CVs, etc., I'd be happy to do that. If you wanted to share my direct details with them, by all means do, and I'd arrange a Zoom call over the next week or two with those individuals.
Yes, please. If you could write down your email address on the chat box so that everyone can get in touch with you. Thank you so much.
There we go.
I'll be sending a bit of detail also about Fran and the University of Manchester. Is there any other questions? Mungkin ada yang mau bertanya lagi, silahkan. Masih ada yang malu-malu, masih ada yang bingung mau ambilnya MBA atau mau ambil program yang lain. Tidak ada lagi. Fran, anything that you want to pass on?
No, I mean, I think Chris has done a fantastic job of answering all of those questions. Just to let you know that I'm the contact at the university for general inquiries like non-MBA. My name's Fran Halliwell, of course, and the team at IBEC can link you up with me. So please feel free to contact me and ask me any questions just about general applications, student life, anything that you need to know. In normal times, I would be regularly attending events in Indonesia, hopefully again soon. We are very optimistic in the UK at the moment because we are rolling out the vaccine program. I know it's happening in Indonesia as well, but I think we're the second best country we've vaccinated large numbers of people. So I just kind of wanted to sort of let you know, because there's been a few questions about how we're teaching, which is, I mean, Chris can maybe talk about the MBA, but at the moment it's a sort of blended approach to teaching. But Chris, you can probably give an example of like how the MBA students are learning at the moment.
Yeah, I think one of the key things I'd like to mention to all of you is, we very much believe our full-time MBA program should be a face-to-face experience. And last year we took the decision to delay the start date of our MBA from August 2020 to January 2021. We did that because we thought this would be over by the time we made that decision, and we were doing it in our students' best interest, not necessarily for our interest. It was for our students. That didn't work exactly like we wanted it to. But we couldn't have envisaged that. But the point is, as Fran's rightly mentioned, the vaccination numbers in the UK are fantastic at the moment. So we are hoping for the class. The class that's going to be starting in 2021 on the MBA, that we will be back to a face-to-face model. We're actually, working that hopefully after Easter, the current class will be back to some sort of face-to-face. But certainly for the class starting in 2021, that is our aim, aspiration, hope, and providing everything goes well with it, continues to go well with the vaccination program, then I think we should be in a good position to fulfill that.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Any questions, everybody? Any last questions?
No, I think